Hey everybody, it's Evan Altman here with another episode of Inside Corner. This is my 11th, 12th episode, I think. Really trying to put these out with a little more regularity, and I'm going to try to keep them shorter, just for the purpose of, the realization that probably a lot of you don't have 45 minutes to listen to some idiot ramble. So definitely want to keep this quick. It is Thursday, June 27th. The significance of that is Craig Kimbrel's Cubs debut took place today at Wrigley against his old team, the Braves. Before I get into that, I guess I'll share. I'm drinking out of the World Series Champions Cup. Normally, as you can probably tell if you haven't watched these before from the little card I have on there, I'm generally drinking beer. However, my indulgence in barley sodas over the last week to two has left me going with something a little bit lighter. So we're doing a little Sailor Jerry with some Diet Pepsi here. I have the house to myself. My kids are both away at camp. My wife is off having like a girls' night with one of her friends. So I'm just going to sit here. I finished watching Jessica Jones. I'm going to try to finish season 3 of Ash vs. Evil Dead. And then I'm actually going to jump on and listen to Julie DeCaro's show on 670 The Score, because there's a guy who's been kind of consistently trolling her. It's actually somebody I've muted on Twitter, but apparently this person is going to be joining her show tonight. So very interesting. Give a couple little plugs. Kind of speaking of that, Julie and I co-host a podcast with Brad Robinson of WBBM called Into the Basket. Julie's unavailable because she has an event at I think a Verizon store with it's about NASCAR theme, but there won't actually be a NASCAR driver there, I guess. Either way, so Brad and I are going to be recording episode 4 tomorrow. That'll be Friday the 28th, and that should be available probably later in the evening or certainly by the weekend, wherever you find your pods, except maybe for Stitcher. I don't know if we're there yet, but there's one of them that we're not on. But we're on iTunes, all the other ones are Apple Podcasts, so get on there, rate us, love us. But Julie and I are actually going to be co-hosting a show on 670 from 6 to 10 o'clock on next Friday, not the 28th, but the 5th. So July 5th, I will be up there in studio. We're going to be recording, and I'm taking my daughter to the Sox game the next day, so that should be kind of fun. Couple little cool things that I got this week, and I'll share those in a little bit. But let's get back. Let's talk about Kimbrel for a little bit, right? So the Cubs signed him first week of June. I think it was June 6th that they actually signed him, which would have been a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. That would have been a Thursday. So like, what would that be? 3 weeks it took him to get ramped up, which is not bad, right? I mean, he threw a bullpen there at Wrigley, goes down to Mesa, threw a couple bullpens, and then pitched in 4 games for the Iowa Cubs, which was the last one was this Tuesday, and then came to Chicago on Wednesday, was activated. Tony Barnett was sent back down, option down, which is kind of an odd move, although you sort of get it. Like they're really just trying to stream these guys at the end. Barnett had pitched twice in 3 days, hadn't looked all that sharp. So Kimbrel comes up, and it had been looking really bad. I'm sure you've already seen it by now, but the Cubs were down early. They looked like straight trash. They come back. They get a 2-run lead. And then Kimbrel comes out, immediately throwing 98 right out of the gate, right? Goes 98, 97, 97 his first 3 pitches. Really nice curveball. Struck Brian McCann out looking on a pitch that it was definitely outside, right? It wasn't a strike, but again, those are the kind of calls that Craig Kimbrel is going to get. And especially when you can go 98, 97, 97, then you drop in 86 with a curve, it kind of fools everybody, right? So that was playing to his advantage. Then he got, I think it was Johan Camargo to ground out, but then he gives up a double to Ronald Acuna. He walked, who was it he walked? Dansby Swanson, Swimmy, Slippy, Swanson, whatever. So 2 men on, Freddie Freeman up, and Freeman drilled a grounder down the first baseline, but Rizzo was playing deep and on the line, managed to snag it. But Kimbrel, so it doesn't cover first, right? So Rizzo's like sprinting to the bag, dives on it, tags it, it's over. But there's good and there's bad to this, right? The bad is Kimbrel didn't cover first base, which is a super basic thing that you've got to do when the ball's hit over there. But therein lies the issue, right? Those are things that like veteran pitchers don't like working on that stuff, but they have to because they're very involved in their craft, right? And so I don't want to say that they don't care about defense, but especially in this case, right? This is a guy that didn't go through spring training, who's been throwing, and we saw that. He's in pretty good shape. He's in super good shape. Dude's been doing his squats for sure, because he is in perhaps popular parlance, a thick boy, as thick THICCBOI, right? I mean, dude's backside is definitely well developed, right? He's been doing his squats, doing his lunges, for sure. Has not shied away from the gym, but when you're throwing, and that's what he's been doing. He's been throwing to keep in shape. He's been lifting to keep in shape. I guarantee you he's not doing pitcher defensive drills. He is not running over to cover first. He's not like having his wife over there, playing first base and tossing the ball, or so it would not seem, because that ball gets put in play. He's not even thinking about it. And he kind of mentioned that afterwards. So those are the things. I think part of it, right, is not only that, but it's his first game of the season. Kind of like opening day for him, first major league game. And he's playing there at Iowa, but coming out there at Wrigley, right, packed house, against his old team, the one with which he really got famous. And so there's a lot playing into that. And so you'll kind of give him that free pass there. But the issue that's kind of bigger, and it's tough to directly relate that to the rest of the team, because, again, the situation with Kimbrel is different from what we've seen with Anthony Rizzo, with Chris Bryant, with Javi, with Wilson Contreras. But, right, there's this whole thing about accountability, this whole thing about having an edge and being sharp and all this stuff. And with Joe Madden spending more hands-on time and more coaching, and you got Brian Butterfield, who's supposed to be kind of the nuts and bolts guy. But this team, in addition to, not being exciting or not having that verb. Now, Thursday's game was super exciting, frequently for the wrong reasons. But those are things that can't happen, right? Being slow out of the box and not taking the extra base. Addison Russell had that problem. I think it was last night. I think it was Wednesday night. And he should have been on second. Instead, they ended up getting doubled off. It's when Adbert Alzolay bunts through a ball, and then Javi gets picked off at third, and Wilson gets picked off. I mean, they get a double play without the ball being put in play, which is just brutally awful. Things like that, where they're shooting themselves in the foot, you cannot have that, right? Because the Brewers aren't going to go 3-9 over every 12-game stretch going forward. The Cardinals aren't going to keep losing their closers to UCL injuries. That's not going to happen. So if you can't take advantage of those things, you're going to be screwed. Now, big weekend series coming up, right? Cubs going down to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's actually playing pretty well lately. I think they're like 6-4 over the last 10. So the Reds and the Pirates, the 4th and 5th place teams in the division, or 5th and 4th if we go respectively, have played better ball than the top 3 teams right now. And both the Reds and the Pirates are certainly in danger of overtaking at least the Cardinals, and they could really muck up the rest of the standings if they keep playing well. So that's one of the things the Cubs really, really need to watch out for. Now, having said that, there's a lot of things going on with the Cubs other than just messing themselves up. Hold on. They're not only are they not, they're playing kind of dumb baseball, but the guys at the bottom of the order are not getting it done. Victor Caratini had a good game Thursday, but heading into the game, he had like a 545 OPS in June, and that was higher than Carlos Gonzalez. That was higher than Daniel Descalso. Cargo, great dude, right? Wonderful smile, seems like a good person, used to be an elite hitter. He is not an elite hitter anymore, right? The Cubs picked him up on a flyer, got him on a minor league deal, and that's cool. And he's a good dude. There's no pop there. The bat is slow. He can field his position moderately well. We saw him make a really great play early on, but he is not the long-term solution as either a starting corner outfielder or even a bench bat. There's no reason for them to maintain this guy and keep him on a roster spot. Daniel Descalso, same thing. Does not field his position well, is not hitting at all, and I suppose the unquantifiable leadership ability that he provides is something the Cubs thought they were acquiring. That's, internally there was some thought that Tommy La Stella was a little too kind of in that old, the Joe Madden sort of thing, but like La Stella was too loose. And even Anthony Rizzo described him as the heartbeat of the team. but I think that was part of that edge they wanted to have. And La Stella, they felt, and they were just kind of using this nebulous term, right? People, you can assign a name to it if you want, didn't really feel that that was the best direction for the team going forward. And so they got somebody who they thought had a little bit more grit in Descalso. But the problem is, Tommy La Stella is dropping bombs out there in L.A., and Descalso has been a bomb for Chicago. And that, I mean, negative WAR. You cannot, a team that is competing, it's one thing if we're talking about the Cubs of 2012, that's fine, negative WAR players, whatever. Yeah, hey, stock up with those guys. We want to suck. You can't have those guys playing regular innings and getting at bats. There's just no way. It doesn't make any sense. And so there are moves they can make. They could call up Robel Garcia, who's got 21 home runs in the minors this year. You know, I don't care that he spent the last 5 seasons playing in Italy and that he's only got like 60-some games stateside in professional baseball over the last 6 years or whatever it is. I don't care. I don't care that he strikes out a bunch. That's fine. Because you know what? He's going to at least hit. He's got defensive versatility. He's not good. He's kind of a butcher defensively too. But he at least offers the upside that you do not have with Descalso, that you do not have with Cargo. There's even Trent Jambroni, who, again, really low batting average because he was brutally awful for a couple months there. He started out hot, tanked. Now he's coming back. All of a sudden, he's got something like 6 home runs in his last 10 or 11 games. Again, pop, but then Garcia hits from both sides. A switch hitter. Big power, both sides of the plate. Jambroni, right-handed hitter, doesn't do well against righties. So you do have that platoon disadvantage there. If you bring up someone like Garcia, automatically you're talking about Descalso, a left-handed hitter. Cargo, left-handed hitter. We'll just cast those guys off. Now you've got a guy who can come in there. He played, Garcia was out, and I believe left field Wednesday night, his first time in the outfield, but they had played him in the outfield a little bit during the spring. Primarily would be like a second baseman at the major league level. Can play a little first, can play a little third. Jambroni can play all 4 infield positions and in the outfield. So you're talking about some guys who are versatile that the Cubs could plug in there. And really, again, this is me being armchair GM. I'm calling one of those dudes up. And for me, it'd be Garcia. Because one, I want to know what I've got. Can this guy hit major league pitching? Because if the answer is no, then cool. I mean, he's a 26-year-old. He was a journeyman. You know, he didn't make it through the system. Who was he with before? It wasn't the Rangers, right? It was Troy. Who was it? Cleveland? And, it's irrelevant. It really doesn't matter because he's with the Cubs now. But you want to bring this guy up. Can he provide some spark? Can he move around and spell some of those regulars, you know, and play sort of that miniature David Bodie role? Can you get rid of Addison Russell? Which, God, that would be great too. And then you have this guy who can come in there. Can he show that pop? Do the home runs that he can maybe hit make up for the strikeouts that he's going to have? Because we're not talking about an everyday guy, right? If he were striking out like 30, 40% and he's in there every day, that's a problem. But when you're talking about a guy who's only going to be playing every once in a while, you know, and coming in as a bench bat, whatever, you'll take that if he can provide you that power. And that's the thing they want to see for 2 reasons. One, can this guy be an upgrade? First of all, immediately an upgrade. And unless he is a negative player, he would be an upgrade over the guys they have now in terms of Russell and Descalso, neither of whom is hitting very well, playing the second base position. The other thing is the Cubs right now are in huge scout mode, both for the bullpen, maybe for some rotation / swing guys, because if they end up making a trade, whether it be for Brad Brock, they get rid of Mike Montgomery, who's really having some struggles this year. You're going to need some guys to fill in there, right? But they're also looking for bat. Jed Hoyer said on the radio today they are absolutely out there looking for external help. They don't know if Ben Zobrist is going to be back. They need to bring in someone who can spark that offense, because clearly the guys they have down at the bottom of that order are not getting it done. Not the guys on a more regular basis, but again, when you're kind of mixing and matching a lot of these, you have some redundancy. If you bring up a guy like Garcia, that can help you determine, okay, can this guy be a legitimate bat for us down the stretch? Or do we really need to splurge a little bit more? You know, that can kind of determine what is your target. Are we looking at the top of the market for a hitter? Are we looking more the lower end of the market? And so the Cubs were in Detroit recently scouting the Tigers and Rangers. Ton of names that could have been potential that they were looking at. Matthew Boyd, the starter for the Tigers, just an incredible strikeout rate right now. I think he's at like almost 12 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's under 2 walks per 9. He's given up a bunch of home runs, which is a little bit frightening, but he's got a low ERA. Dude's under control. Those things are a little bit, he's a lefty, right? So would the Cubs look to target that, kind of like what they did with Kimbrel in a way, of getting somebody who's going to be around for a couple more years? Do they get this guy for the control and then look at moving him into the rotation, moving somebody out of the rotation? That's a possibility. Mike Minor, the starter for the Rangers, also under control through next year. He's been a swingman before. The Cubs could look to do something like that, especially if they look to move Mike Montgomery. Tyler Chatwood had a really awful outing. Are there some moves they make there? Those would definitely have some other ramifications, like with some legitimate everyday type guys right now if they were to make them. But you also look at Nicholas Castellanos, who is a really solid hitter for the Tigers right now. They're certainly going to look to move him because they're out of the playoff picture entirely. They're needing to rebuild. He's only under control for the remainder of the year at just around $10 million total. So the prorated amount of that would be, we're halfway through the season. You're only talking about $5 million or so. Again, there's a guy who's a right-handed hitter, but his platoon splits are pretty even. So he's not really a guy who you have to only bat against lefties, that sort of thing. So there's another guy. Now he's a corner outfield spot. He's listed as a partial third baseman, hasn't played there in a couple years, don't want to play him there. Defensively, he's a butcher. He is not a guy you're going to have out there every day. But it's kind of like when they, remember when they made the trade with the Tigers to pick up Justin Wilson and Alex Avila, and Avila ended up playing a ton as a catcher, right? Because Wilson Contreras got hurt. But Avila was a really solid hitter, having a breakout year. The Cubs got him to be a backup, and he ended up being the primary catcher for a while. So in a guy like Castellanos, you get him in there, you get rid of Cargo immediately. I mean, that's done right there. There's your right fielder. You move Albert Almora, who is hitting like hot garbage right now, into a clear bench role and kind of let him maybe collect some things that way somehow. Maybe you option him down and let him play every day, which is what they've done with Ian Happ. Now you've got 2 guys down there. I don't know how that works out, but Jason Hayward basically becomes your everyday center fielder, or at least, again, Castellanos, depending on how you want to rotate those guys, maybe he goes over and plays a little left field and Schwarber has a seat. Again, when you talk about facing left-handed pitchers, and that makes a little bit more sense, right? So that could be a move they make. There's several others. They're looking at Will Smith and Tony Watson out in San Francisco. So there's a couple guys. There's, you're looking at Jesse Chavez, right? Our old friend Jesse Chavez, who's back with the Rangers on a 2-year deal. And then now they've had him in the starting rotation a few times. So he's working that swingman role, which again is more similar to what Tyler Chatwood, to what Mike Montgomery would have. And how much do the Cubs, what are they willing to do? The reason he's in Texas is because the Cubs weren't willing to go to the second year with him. They didn't want to do that for a guy who's 35 this year. He's under contract for next year. Do you now make a trade for a guy you weren't willing to just pay money to? Now do you give up prospects or something else, or just maybe the Rangers just want to have him eat the deal? I don't know. But there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of moves the Cubs are looking to make. So keep that in mind because we've still got a little over a month. Remember, one solid trade deadline. Previously, it would be the July 31st deadline would be the non-waiver, right? And you have another month through which a team could put these guys on waivers. If a team claims them on waivers, they could work out something with the team, or the team could pull them back. But if they clear waivers, then they're eligible to be traded. And so we saw that with Daniel Murphy last year. We've seen a ton of those deals go through like that. That's no longer there. You no longer have. So a lot of teams would kind of, wait on that second deadline and kind of see like, let's feel this out a little bit further. Let's see whether they're going to be buyers or sellers. They can't do that now, July 31st. And that's pretty early because you're still talking about all of August, all of September, that teams need to now decide 2 months early, are we going to buy or are we going to sell? And that's where you look at a team like the Rangers. They're in contention right now. They're in the wild card spot. They have the second wild card, but it's very close in there. Over the next 4 weeks, things could shift dramatically. So the Cubs really need to get active on some of these things. The Giants are probably going to be making some moves, so really take a look at that stuff. But, again, exciting win. Got a big one there. Kimbrel being available is huge for them. Now he'll probably be down tomorrow in their first game in Cincinnati. Hopefully it doesn't matter. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of exciting stuff. So follow this stuff along. I'll try to update as frequently as I can if there's some rumors that pop up or some names that come in there. And maybe I'll even check the comments on here. So if there's something you want to hear about in particular. So I set out to keep it short. I need to cut this off because I've already probably gone longer than I wanted. But I do want to show you guys a couple things. I got this cool little, I already have these, I have a couple of these little rubber bracelets that I wear. But I got this other one, it's also a rubber ball type bracelet. But I think it's called Lokai. It's Lokai. And I thought this would be kind of a cool way for my daughter and I to kind of share something. I thought that'd be, because I figured she would like something like that. It's not like overtly Cubbish. I mean, it is like the packaging is a Cubs logo, but it's just red, white, and blue. There's no logos on the actual bracelet. And it's kind of one of these cheesy sort of things, right? They've got like a gimmick to it, and it's the idea is this all white bead on here apparently contains water from the top of Mount Everest, which is the highest point on Earth, and the black bead here has mud from the Dead Sea, which is like the lowest point on Earth. So this whole idea of, you know, even when you're at your highest, remain humble, and when you're at your lowest, remember it can always get better. And so it's kind of one of those deals it's supposed to, there's no mystical powers to it, but just kind of a neat thing. And I thought, well, I'll get one for myself and I'll get one for my daughter, and that'll be kind of a neat way for us to sort of share that. She's coming up with me to Chicago. Initially, my son was, I was just going to go by myself. We're thinking, well, do a whole family thing. Do I just go by myself? Do I take my son? I had taken him up to Wrigley for a weekend. And Addison, my daughter, she's not really into the whole Cubs thing. But she actually, I think, unless my wife got her to do it, I don't know. But she chose to come up with me. So we're going to stay right downtown, go to the Sox game, take the train in and back and do some of that stuff. So hoping to have a good time. But the other thing I want to share with you guys, and this is really cool. So I got the chance, it was almost 2 months ago now, to actually custom design my own pair of Nikes. And there were 3 different kinds we could choose from. And I ended up getting doing the Air Force Ones, right? But it took them forever, right? It took me 7 weeks basically to get them. But come in this cool box, Nike for you. You see this here? I don't know how well you can see it, but Nike by Evan, right? It's got my name on there. That's pretty cool. So I mean, straight up custom box, or a custom sticker at least. I mean, the boxes are pretty, but straight up, that's what the shoes look like, right? So they got a picture of my shoe on there, and again. Open them up and take them out here. So I got to design these out. So pretty cool, huh? So Air Force Ones, the traditional deal there, and kind of wanted to go. My wife's like, they're very white, and so then I started second guessing myself. I'm like, man, did I do what I wanted to? But I definitely like that over the blue. But was able to get the red in there, right? The Cubs red, blue soles. I love this. I love the blue sole. That's pretty cool. Just really like that look right there with the blue laces, black underside. Kept these deals in there. And then I don't know how easy it is to see on here, but I was able to get that embroidered on the back with CI for Cubs Insider. My website, I know I'm super famous as a YouTuber now with like 20 of you watching these every time, but was able to get that embroidered in there. So really, really cool. Super stoked about these. And so this is that's the first time I've ever done that, to get a custom pair of shoes, first ever pair of Air Force Ones I've had. And so, those are probably I hope to let those last me like a long, long time, to where I hardly ever wear them. So we'll see. But I certainly don't get any money from Nike. I don't have an arrangement with them or anything. So I'm not I don't really know how much that it normally costs. It was like a deal that I got through a whole separate venture. But I think I want to say it was only like $110, which realistically, when you think about being able to have I was so excited about this, because it's really cool to me to have something that is mine, that I know nobody else has, unless one of you jerks goes on and makes them just like that. But no, seriously, really cool deal. And so I like the ability to do that, whether it's customizing a jersey or what have you, right? It's neat stuff. So anyway, yeah, definitely we'll try to come back with one of these prior to the holiday, or maybe I'll try to get one recorded when I'm in the studio or something like that. We can kind of do some fun with that. So anyway, thanks for joining me again. Really appreciate you guys coming on here and checking it out, and ideally, share it with your friends. Would love to kind of turn this into something. So again, I can become like super duper famous, and then I can quit my regular job and we just do this and hang out all day. So anyway, have a great rest of the day or night or whatever time you're watching this. And until next time, cheers.